Everything starts with thought. And we have control over, what we want to build. And you know that that negative thought is not true. Okay, and so how is this serving you? Be clear about what you want and pursue it at all costs. And recognize that you are worthy of whatever you want.
Welcome back to the Canadian Dream Podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk to Shelley Langille, a certified executive coach and a career coach. And she's also the founder of 3 businesses, which we're going to talk about in just a bit. I have the pleasure to have you here finally in our studio in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming over.
So delighted to be here, and thank you for trying to make this happen for so long.
We have been talking for a few months.
We have.
But you live in Victoria.
I do.
So it is a 3 to 4 hour trip?
It is, unless you take Helijet, which is half an hour. Harbor to harbor is beautiful.
Which you just did.
I did, yeah.
So it's a 30-minute flight?
It is, yeah.
Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning of your career as a coach.
As a coach.
What led you to this moment in your life when you decided to help other people in their own careers?
Honestly, it was being let go from my job for the 3rd time from different industries. This has happened to me 3 times. I was in hotel management, which ended up with me being let go through no fault of my own, just business decisions, right? Then getting into tech and working in that and succeeding, and then being let go. And then getting into academia, where I was for 18 years, and then being let go. And it was funny because this time I was 57 and I had been through this 3 times. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to help people let go after being let go because I do that well, apparently. And I can appreciate and find the gifts and the skills to bring forward to the next opportunity that was always bringing me closer to where I am now without knowing this is where I should be. Because now I'm doing an entrepreneur helping people find their gifts, find their superpowers, and create lives that they want, create careers that they want. And this is true heart work for me. So it was being let go. It was realizing that I'm going to now become a self-employed entrepreneur for the first time at 57. I never thought that was going to happen. I thought I was going to retire. I had nice golden handcuffs with a pension and everything else. And I thought I'd be there forever until I retired. But this has been absolutely the path that I needed to take.
When were you let go for the last time?
January.
Or before COVID?
It was just before January 2020.
Oh, wow. Just 1-2 months before.
Yeah. And what I had been doing is I was doing career coaching for the last 17 years at the university, working with mostly first responder sectors, but tech and others, and helping people look at their career, advance, transition, retire through an education lens, right? And so I recognized that I've been doing career coaching. And at that time, I talked to a colleague of mine and, they suggested that, hey, maybe I should take the executive coaching program at Royal Roads, because that is how it was put to me was, these are your people. This is you, and these are your people. You will love this program. And so I took the executive coaching program, about 9 months long, never looked back. It filled in the gaps of what I didn't know about coaching and helped me establish my own business. And I knew going in that I was going to be starting Seashell Consulting. I knew right away. When I was let go, I just knew I was going to be doing something on my own. I quickly came up with Seashell Consulting, SEE, so a little play on my name and coaching. And I launched that. And it was during the program that I actually got the idea for the International Coach Coalition, which is a membership of my fellow classmates, really. And it's an online platform to help people find their ideal coach.
So you just mentioned 2 of your businesses.
Yes.
And then there's the third one, Shell Seas.
Shell Seas, which is a bit different, and it's a bit, people think woo-woo or whatever, but there's a lot of science behind this. It's older, ancient, metaphysical kind of sciences, right? It's about intention setting. It's about visualization, manifestation. It's, I'm billing myself as a transition or a intention coach or a manifestation coach or a visualization coach, and helping people lean into the power they have over how their life looks and what they create within their life. And the interesting thing is, it's not, this is not for everybody. A lot of people kind of look at this metaphysical stuff and, hey, there's things like tarot cards and oracle or, astrology. And a lot of people see this as, non-traditional and outside the norm, and they don't really want to go there. But the interesting thing is there's a lot of science behind these practices. And, when we are able to be clear, get clarity about what we want and visualize that and be intentional in how we bring that about, then we're able to have more control over our lives than we think we do, right? A lot of people I see are waiting for life to happen to them. And I really firmly believe that with intention, we can make life happen how we want it.
Okay, so I understand what Shell Seas is about, but why did you see the need to create another company that is it seems to be quite similar to the first one, Shell Consulting?
Coaching is about mindset. It's about helping shift people's mindsets, about helping them recognize blind spots, helping them get clarity about what they want, right? And how they proceed in their career, in their life, on their life path, whatever that may be. The interesting thing is, why I felt like there had to be separation, because Seashell Consulting and the International Coach Coalition are professional. It's working with leaders and organizations. It's working with organizations, right? It's working with provincial, federal, public and private sector organizations. Very professional. My favorite, my chosen social media is LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my professional work and my posts. Because Shell Seas is really around the metaphysical, when I came up with this idea, because honestly, this goes back to a workshop I did, and it was an intentional New Year workshop with my girlfriend. And she said, I'm going to do a New Year intention workshop, and I'm going to do vision boards. And I would love it if you, and she has an island, and it was, billed as this retreat. It was really quite lovely. And she said, do you have something that you could bring to the table that would complement and go well with vision boarding? And I said, well, yes. I've actually discovered this new moon intention ritual practice that has been quite transformative for me, and it's changed my life. And I would love to tell more people about it. And she said, okay, let's do that. You have an hour to talk about this. And there's a lot more to that story, but suffice to say that I ended up having an hour to talk about intention and mindset and mindfulness and our values and how we find those. And what I did is I created what was a little new moon intention ritual kit. It has a candle, it has herbs and crystals to power up the intention candle. It's got instructions on how to do the intention ritual during a new moon. Starts with a bath. It's about meditation. It's about journaling what you want to let go of, journaling what you want to invite in, and reading this over and believing it for 30 days. And it can transform your life, which I actually have great examples of how it's made a huge difference for me. So when I came up with this idea of this organization, this new business entity that was going to focus on intention, manifestation, that kind of stuff, I wanted to keep it very separate from my business, because business people are serious-minded folks who may be turned off by things that talk about the metaphysical, right? So I wanted it, I felt a need to start this and to help expose people to these theories, to these practices, to these resources that can help them get clarity in their life. On the other hand, I didn't want to affect my reputation with the business community that I was, seen as less than serious, right? But then a funny thing happened. So by this time, I have decided I'm going to call it Shell Seas, and I have a new logo. I created an Instagram page. My website's under development. But then I recognized that I actually have to share this with my business community, because Authenticity is one of my top 5 core values. And if I am not sharing this with my business community, I'm not sharing all of myself. Because really, these 3 companies are like this trifecta of meeting my personal needs and encompassing all of who I am, right? It's a connection of the heart, mind, body, and soul. And so it's funny because on LinkedIn, I wasn't going to share that I was doing this at all with my business community. But then I decided to take my own advice that I give other people when I'm coaching them. Get out of your comfort zone, be courageous, show up as your full authentic self. And I did a post on LinkedIn saying, okay, I am showing up with complete vulnerability here because I know this isn't for everybody, right? But authenticity is one of my top 5 core values. And if I don't show up everywhere with my full self, then I'm hiding. And I'm not really showing up authentically, am I? And I'm not setting a good example. So, hey, here's what I'm doing. And I shared, this new moon intention ritual stuff, and I can be an intention coach, and I can actually do career coaching with a tarot reading on the side or whatever. And I thought, if I lose followers, that's fine. They're not meant to be with me. I've actually got more followers. So I don't see that I've lost anybody. I feel like I've gotten more. Yeah. And it is really closely connected to coaching because it is about mindset, and it's about believing in ourselves, and it's about holding ourselves capable and holding ourselves worthy of what we want, right? So it is connected, but I'm keeping it separate because now I'm doing things like, I have a psychic and spiritual arts fair that I'm having a table at in January. I'm very excited, but it's completely different than coaching, right? It's completely different than my business side, but connected as well. Does that make sense?
Oh, of course, of course. We're going to talk a lot about your beliefs and your values. Let's start with this here. So this is a quote from your biography.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but it's something that you sent to me before coming here.
Okay.
You say, my approach to coaching is based on curiosity, compassion, and empowerment. Let's talk about this. Let's start with curiosity.
Yeah. Curiosity is after building trust, after helping clients feel they're in a trustworthy environment where they can talk about whatever they want to talk about, and the story is not going to go anywhere and it's not going to be shared. After that, a good coach just shows up with curiosity. And it's something that I've always done. I've always been curious about people. I've been curious about people's stories. I have a hard time, you're driving. Let's use an example of driving on the road, and somebody cuts you off and people get frustrated. I can't help but wonder why that person did that. What's their story? What happened to them? Are they maybe coming from the hospital or dealing with a traumatic situation, and they're not even thinking, right? So everybody has a story, and so I show up with curiosity, and when we show up with curiosity, we help people feel seen, heard, understood, and supported. And when we show up with curiosity, people will share a remarkable amount of information and be vulnerable and show up with vulnerability.
And that's where compassion comes in.
Absolutely.
Compassion and empowerment.
Absolutely. And the empowerment, and compassion is just, it's who I am. It's like, what is your story and how can I help? And, that sounds like a really hard thing you're going through. What do you need from me to help you? Or what can you do for yourself to help yourself move through this trauma? How do you name the emotion, right? How do you name the emotion, recognize it, acknowledge it, find a way to move through it and move on to what's next, because something better is awaiting, right? And that compassion is just hearing people and helping them feel seen, heard, understood, and supported. And then empowerment is recognizing what people's superpowers are. When you're talking to somebody, you can actually see what their superpowers are. If you listen, you can uncover what their superpowers are. When you listen to somebody and really deeply listen to them, and you see them light up when they're talking about something, that's their one of their gifts, right? This is what they should be doing. This is what they ought to be doing. And a lot of people don't necessarily do what they ought to be doing that fills them with joy, right? because they don't recognize or see it as a possibility, because they're not holding themselves capable. So it's about inspiring them to pursue their goals and to recognize that whatever it is they want, they can pursue and go after. She was showing up with some curiosity and getting outside the comfort zone.
I love that. Well, you have coached many people, maybe hundreds or thousands, right?
Hundreds.
What do you think that most of them, or if not all of them, have in common when they come to you for guidance?
Most of my clients are coming to me because they want to, so they have an open mind. They are ready for change. They are ready to recognize and acknowledge that they're not where they want to be, but they want to get to where they want to go.
And what is in the way?
Exactly. And how are they getting in their own way?
Exactly. And that's where I wanted to get.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear from you first. What is in their way to get where they want to go? Yeah. And then I would share with you that I always say that we are our main enemies.
Absolutely.
Right? So are we on the same page here?
Totally.
Why do we sabotage our own life?
That's really interesting. And I actually watched a show that kind of put it into words that made sense to me, because I've often said that. It's like, it's the bad stuff that happens to us, the bad stuff that we hear, the bad stuff that people have told us in our lives that haven't served us. It's like Velcro, isn't it? It just sticks to us and we can't get rid of it. But all the good stuff is like Teflon and it slides off. We don't believe it. We can have 10 people tell us something awful. No, sorry.
One person.
Yeah, we can have one person telling us something awful and 10 people telling us something great about ourselves. But we'll focus on that one bad. And what this expert said, and I can't remember who it was, but they said it goes back to our caveman days.
I was going to say that too, but yeah, it's our instinct.
It is our instinct. It's human. It's human nature. It's survival.
Pay attention to
what's
bad.
Absolutely.
Threatening us.
What's going to take us down? What's going to kill us? What's going to hurt us? Absolutely. So that is human nature.
We're designed for negativity.
Totally. And, and that brings on imposter syndrome. That brings on self-limiting beliefs, all of these things. And with work, though, and with practice, we can change that. And I call it overseeding the lawn. That's what I used to call it. Now I'm calling it change the algorithm of our brains, because we can. And you can change the algorithm in your mind, just like you can change the algorithm on your phone, on your social media. And I know this because I did this. I actually changed the algorithm on my social media. It took me 2 years. I stopped engaging, liking, reading, commenting on anything that wasn't serving my higher good. All the negative stuff, all the political stuff, all the society, negativity that we have going on, that people say social media is horrible because it's so negative. Well, it's only negative because you're inviting it in. Yeah. I decided to change my algorithm. It was a good experiment too. It took about 2 years, but I completely changed it. Now my social media feeds are so positive, empowering, inspiring, right? That it's where I get my material. It's where I get a lot of the information that I share on my own social media. And people have told me they appreciate that because my posts are inspiring. And, oh, I had to hear that message today. Thank you. Oh, this is a good one. Thank you. I'm going to steal this and share it myself. We can do that with our mind, with our brain. Every time a negative thought pops into our head, self-limiting belief, or how we're getting in our own way, whatever negative, that devil that sits over here, whenever they start to talk, you replace it with 2 or 3 positive things, right? You replace it with 2 or 3 positive thoughts and attributes or skills or gifts that you have. And you know that negative thought is not true. It's not real. It's imaginary, but we are letting it dictate what we think about ourselves. And when we can replace that with positive affirmations, and this is where positive mantras can be really helpful, it works. I have changed my thoughts. I do not have those negative thoughts that happen to me anymore. I don't. They might start to squeak in. No, you're not true. That's a lie. I don't believe it. I believe in myself more than I believe in those negative thoughts.
You do remind me of Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, Tony Robbins.
Yeah. this isn't new science. This isn't new knowledge. This is just something we don't do enough of for ourselves.
Where did you get these ideas from? What were you reading, or is it all empirical?
It's I had a really good mom. She instilled this great confidence in me that I could be and do whatever I wanted to do. And we believe that. And this happens with a lot of kids. Happens especially with a lot of girls, right? It's very insidious. And we can be confident, and kids in general, but girls in particular, we can be confident in ourselves as we're growing up. We're younger. Our parents tell us we can do whatever we can, whatever we want. And I just had a great mom who was a huge champion of mine. But then puberty happens, and high school happens, and middle school happens, and society happens. And then you start to get all the messages from the media and everything else about who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to show up and how you're supposed to look and all of these things. And it whittles away at your confidence. I'm not sure there's any one place it came from. It's like as I got older, I remembered what my mom used to tell me. And I started believing, right? Oh my God. I started believing what she was, I started to have faith in myself like the faith she had in me. And then you add in like Brené Brown. Brené Brown is my virtual mentor, right? She is remarkable. She brings science and knowledge and research to the masses because she knows how to talk. She knows how to communicate. She knows how to communicate very complex ideas in a language that people understand. So she's remarkable. I think I need a break in a tissue.
Tissue. Thanks.
Do you know Brené Brown?
You're getting emotional. I'm not the only one. Yes.
Thank you.
Aiden is seeing me cry, right, Aiden?
Well, and it's.
Do you want some eye drops too?
Oh, that'd be great. You have those handy too.
Have you had any mentors?
I've had lots of mentors, actually. I've been very lucky. I've had mentors at work. I have had people that believed in me and encouraged me. And I have been, some people would say lucky, but I don't believe in luck. I think we make our own luck. But I have built some great relationships with people that have given me opportunities that I wasn't expecting. And it's been a gift, totally. But I do have a virtual mentor, and Brené Brown is my virtual mentor. And and up there with her is Simon Sinek and Adam Grant. And if you don't know these names, you should look them up because yeah, right? They're brilliant. They are dealing with the human condition in the workplace and in life and how we show up. And Brené Brown, if you've not seen or heard of her, she's had a huge impact on what I bring to the classroom. When I'm doing workshops, a lot of the material I bring is from her because she has taken information that's really hard to understand, or it might be, in academic speak. It's research papers, it's white papers, it's research that she's done and other people have done. And she's able to bring this to the masses in a way that makes sense. And she gives us a roadmap on how to build trusting relationships. And it's her BRAVING acronym. And again, look it up. It's remarkable. And what the BRAVING acronym does for me, it creates a framework and a set of conditions on how to show up as a human being, how to show up in ways that embrace compassion and empathy and boundaries and the vault, not sharing stories that aren't yours to share, showing up with generosity, expecting that everybody is doing the best that they can with what they know, and they're showing up with the best of intentions. And if organizations could have BRAVING as their, fundamental terms of engagement within an organization, there'd be a lot less stress. There'd be a lot less burnout. There'd be a lot less people not satisfied in their workplace, right?
One of the things that you mentioned that I actually highlighted here in my notes, it is, let me see how I put it here. You say organizations hire you to coach their leaders and or to provide workshops on topics such as communication, leadership, building trust, and now comes it in bold. Strengthening relationships. It's what you just mentioned. And I would love you to talk more about relationships and how, actually, why we should aim to strengthen our relationships.
That's a really good question. And that's, boy, I think we could probably talk about that for 2 hours on its own. What's wrong with the world right now? Right? What are we seeing in the world? A lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of anger, a lot of judging, a lot of distrust. Is it a coincidence that we're feeling this even more after a pandemic when we lost the ability to communicate and to see people face to face, right? And talk to them and talk through issues and problems. Everybody got very isolated. And it didn't do us any favors in a world that is losing the element of communication a lot because of the technology and social media and everything else that we have going on. Communication and strengthening relationships has been critical for me from the beginning. And I'll tell you why. So when I was let go from the hotel that I was at, 5-star hotel, lovely place, loved the job, loved my people. It was very insular, right? It's actually where my base of friends that I have today came from 30-something years ago. And it was a great place, but we just kind of hung out together. There wasn't a lot of networking or building relationships outside of the organization. And then I lost my job. And it was hard. That was the one time it was hard. It was heartbreaking because I put my heart and soul into it. And I wasn't expecting to lose my job. And I went into a funk for like 3 or 4 months, kind of feeling sorry for myself and what am I going to do? And, when we're let go, what are we told? We're told we're not good enough, we're not loved, we're not cared for, all the basic things that human beings need. So I had to do some self-analysis and self-work and introspection. And when I finally pulled myself out of that little hole that I was in, 3 or 4 months later, I decided, okay, I like the people part of the job, but I don't want to work weekends, evenings, and holidays. I was very practical. I want a Monday to Friday gig. So I went and applied for a tech company and got the job. Now, the tech company, it was more of a external-facing customer relations kind of role. So I started building relationships, and I started, collecting my people, collecting my community, building my community. And, LinkedIn actually has a lot of my friends and colleagues that turned into friends, customers that turned into friends that go back to my hotel management days. That's why I like LinkedIn. But the building relationships, when we come from a place, and this is my mantra, this is what I do when it comes to building relationships. What can I do to help you? What do you need? Who can I connect you to? And you and I talked about this. We shared that same philosophy. Who can I connect you to? What company can I introduce you to? What can I help you with that's going to help you in whatever goal you're pursuing? When we show up from a place of service and caring and understanding what people's stories are and what they want and what they need and try and help them, then we are building relationships based on trust, based on respect, based on support, right? I did that, and I built up this community of people. The interesting thing was, when you do this, people want to help you as well. So here's a funny story about how I lost my job in the tech field. I got a call from a customer. One of my customers called me and said, hey, somebody's losing their job at your office. And I said, what? They said, yeah, I was at a golf tournament in Vancouver, and I heard people from your company saying that they had to go to Victoria to let people go from the local office. And I went, really? So here's a customer telling me that somebody's losing a job in my office. I went and talked to my work dad and said, hey, I won't use names, but hey, somebody's being let go from our office. And he said, that's crazy. Why would you say that? And I'm like, well, this customer called and told me that, they heard this, and that, and the other thing, and they're coming, that somebody's being let go. And he said, well, that would be crazy, but whatever. A couple of hours later, maybe the next day, I got a call from the regional manager of BC that has never called me before, never talked to me before. And he says, I'm coming to town on Friday, and I'm wondering if you'd want to meet. if we can meet. I said, sure. I hung up. I went into my work dad and said, it's me. I'm being let go. And he said, that would be crazy. You're the heart and soul of the office. You do all the organizing and everything else, and everybody loves you. I'm like, well, this guy's coming. And, so he ended up coming over to our office and with this formal looking lawyer type person and gave me a package and said, your position's eliminated. You're dismissed without cause. I said, did I do anything wrong? No. And when I brought them into the office, it was funny because I was a pretty confident and maybe cocky 27-year-old. And I sat them down in the meeting room and I looked at them before we even started and said, this looks like a downsizing call. And they said, well, why would you say that? I said, actually, a customer called and told me so. And they said, that's impossible. I said, well, we're here. And so what's the package? What's the deal? I got a good deal. It was a good package and everything else. The interesting thing, again, so there's a customer that told me it was coming. I had another customer that found out that this happened and contacted 2 tech education firms and said, she's been let go. She's available. You should hire Shelley right now. The day after I was let go, I got 2 phone calls from those 2 companies offering me a job. Right? So I didn't even have time to think about being let go. I was being offered other work. The funny part of this is I didn't know which company to go with. So what did I do? I took out my tarot cards and I did a tarot card reading and said and asked some questions of the cards. And I went with what the cards told me, which was to go to this company that actually is the company that led me to Royal Roads University. Wow. Yeah. When we build relationships, when we come from a place of service, when we strengthen our relationships through understanding, through being interested in people's stories, and helping them, people want to help us. So then when we need help, when you need to be told that somebody's being let go from your company, and then, here's another job opportunity for you. It's because of those relationships that I built.
When you have someone that has been let go and they come to you for your assistance, what does the process look like?
Not everybody is necessarily going to feel comfortable with me. So we first have a discovery call where we get to know each other and they let me know what's happened in their world, what their goals are. I let them know about my coaching process. And if we find a connection, then we will book sessions after that. And then, honestly, it's about coaching is a practice. And there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of processes behind it. And basically, it's about finding out what a person's goal is. Might be finding a job. Where are they right now? Well, I don't have a job and I just got let go, so I'm feeling really terrible. Then what can we do to help you? Where are you now? And what can we do to get you to where you want to go? And what are the tactics and processes that you can implement to help you get there?
And with your experience, what do you realize that has greater impact in that case? How can you help them the most?
Oftentimes, it's about dealing with the trauma. It's about talking to somebody that understands and has lost their job several times and how you come out of that, how you find how you make the lemonade out of the lemons that you've been dealt. This is something that's happened to you. It's often nothing you have control over. And how do you deal with the trauma? Because again, when we lose our job, the immediate thought is we're not good enough. They don't want me, right? I've done something wrong. When a huge percentage, like high percentage of people have not lost their job because of anything they've done. They've lost their job because of mergers and acquisitions or reorgs or whatever. It could even be personalities, right? People don't lose their jobs because of something they've done as a rule. It is oftentimes because of business. And we can't take it personally, right? And so it's a matter of dealing with the trauma, recognizing what happened to them, recognizing what they had control over, probably not anything, then what do they have control over now? Their attitude, their self-talk, right? And what they do next. And how do they get to a place of confidence, reinstilled confidence and trust that they are good enough and they deserve better? And how can we get you back on path? how can we get you on the next part of your journey that's going to serve you best?
Communication is quite important for everybody anywhere. Well, most people in most places.
Yes.
Never mind what I said before. But how important is it for what you do and for people who are actually being mentored to focus on their communication skills?
Critical. Absolutely critical.
I'm asking this because I think that many people might focus more on their career, on the things that they have to do, rather than on how they present themselves. And communication is a big part of how they present themselves, besides the looks and the behavior. Right?
Yeah, it's true. And well, it's interesting, right? Because communication has so many different things. You know, we can relay technical information, we can share technical information in a way that people understand. You know, teachers, they have to teach to different styles of listening and different personalities and learning styles. And communication is I believe it's a fluid kind of place where we have to be willing to shift and pivot and do whatever we need to do based on who we're talking to make sure that they're hearing us or we're communicating in a way that they understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's people can, and hey, we do a lot of this in the coaching program. We talk about how to communicate effectively, how to really listen. We can listen to what's said, but are we listening to what's not said? Right? How is everything being communicated? How is the body language when you're talking to somebody? When they're saying something, does their body language align with what they're actually saying? And if it's not, how can you show up with curiosity and empathy and compassion to find out more about that and dig deeper, right? And it's about communicating, it's about listening, it's about the words we use, it's how we say it. It's funny, when I was doing my presentation workshops and being trained to do presentations, it's not so much about what you're saying, it's how you're saying it and how you're making people feel, right? And this is where we can get all caught up in making sure we're reading our script or hitting all those points. But in the meantime, it's really about how you're showing up authentically and sharing what you have to share in a way that makes sense and resonates with people that you're talking to.
Yeah. What else?
What else about communication? Yeah. It's about how you're presenting. It's your image. It's your brand. How do you want to show up? How are you choosing to show up? Right? And are you choosing to show up authentically? And are you really listening? Are you really paying attention? And how comfortable are you with silence? Right? Silence has a huge part of communication especially if you're asking questions. People will often ask questions, but they're not really listening for the answer. They're listening for what's said so they can figure out what they're going to say next. Right? So when we're asking a question, just like what you just did, and what else? And tell me more. And then leaving the space when we're talking to somebody and asking a question, leaving a space for them to answer. People will often, it's funny, when you have people in workshops, some facilitators will be, do their presentation and it's like, okay, anybody have any questions? No? Okay, good, we're good. But they're not leaving any space for anybody to actually ask questions or to reflect on maybe a question they want to ask, right?
As a coach, how much do you learn being on the other side? Because people come to you for help and then many times you are the one being helped.
Totally.
Does that happen?
Absolutely. And actually, I learn from every coaching conversation I have, right? Because they might be struggling with something I struggle with myself. Because guess what? I'm human and I'm not perfect and I'm always kind of self-coaching myself. And I will often, what my clients are coming to me with, what they're coming to me, the challenge they're coming to me with resonates. And so I get to get some insight into myself as well as I have this conversation with them. As a coach, I'm coached as well. So I have friends and we coach each other. Makes a huge difference. And the learning just doesn't stop. I mean, the only constant is learning, and I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah, this morning I heard something on my daily podcast. I listen to podcasts all the time.
Right.
So this morning I was listening to something, Chris Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that guy?
I recognize the name, yeah.
He's amazing. He talks about how important it is not just to desire things or to want certain things, but to want the things that you want to want. So how important it is to design your thoughts so that you are pursuing the things that are actually good in your life. What do you think of that?
I love it. It's true. It's mindset.
Many times people, they just go with the flow and, okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to pursue. And now this is what I want, or this is what everybody else is pursuing. But I try to step back for my life, at least, mine and my family's life. I like to think that we design our lives.
Yeah.
My family, my company, my personal life they are designed.
Yeah.
So what do we want to wish? What do we want to build rather than what everybody else around us is doing?
Yeah. What do we want to create?
Yeah.
I saw a really great quote, and I know everybody's probably heard of it before, but, everything is invented twice. Right? Everything is invented twice. It's invented first with the thought of the invention, and then it's invented the second time with the creation of the invention. Everything starts with thought. And we have control over, what we want to build and what we want to create and how does it serve us. And that's one of my favorite things whenever I'm coaching people is, okay, and so how is this serving you? Yeah. Right? And oftentimes it's after they're talking about something that's been a big challenge and what their reaction has been to it, maybe instead of a response. Humans, when we don't think about the repercussions, we can find ourselves reacting to situations rather than responding. Yeah. And it ties in, I think, because we have more control than we think. We have more control over creating the life that we want than we've been led to believe. Kids believe in magic, right? Yeah. Kids believe in magic. Kids believe in dreams. Kids believe in Santa Claus, right? As we're children, we are led to believe all of these wonderful, fantastical kind of things. And it's taught out of us. The system takes it out of us. They teach the magic out of us. And when we can lean into that magic a bit, which is positive thoughts, creating where we want to go, showing up as the authentic person that we want to be, but in a beautiful, taking all the beautiful parts of ourselves that we love and how we want to show up and just being it.
Do you think it's more difficult for women? You mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk more about that. What are the challenges that women face that men might not be aware of or might not experience?
I have to first say that I think the world is hard for everybody right now. I think it's really hard for younger people in general. With where things are at, it's challenging, more challenging than it's ever been. And we are not serving the boys of the world as we should be, right? And there's a lot of confusion and it's just such a complicated topic. But historically, yes, women and girls have had more to deal with in terms of our self-worth, our purpose, what we're here for, who we're here to serve, and it's always been ourselves last. And that's, mother. You can talk to mothers or sisters and grandmothers, and it's complicated. It's very complicated. And what I'm happy about and have hope about is I see a shift where people in general are bucking the rules. These rules that have existed for eons and for as long as humans have been on the planet. Rules have been created by a certain segment of population, and it serves them, but it doesn't serve the majority of the population. And here's the thing. Those rules they're not applicable anymore. They're not working. They're not serving us. And people are recognizing that more and more. And we're making our own rules now.
Okay, you want to give me a few examples?
Well, just the rules about, women shouldn't be in, leadership positions. And, the numbers are still there. We're not catching up in terms of women in CEO positions, in C-suite positions. Organizations and boards are still male-dominated, that kind of stuff. It's still there. It's still true. Yeah. The numbers don't lie. I mean, the numbers, it's still... there's women are the minority in the workplace, in leadership positions. The rules that say that, women have to have children. Those rules...
You don't have children.
Pardon me?
You don't have children.
I don't have children. And I've never been made to feel bad about that, but I know a lot of women that have made to feel that they're less than, or they're going to miss out on something, right? The rules are changing in many different ways, and people are recognizing that it's more about what is serving us, what's helping us, what's serving us, what's getting us to a life that we want.
We're getting very deep here. Let's get back to the surface.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your workshops now. You're with your consulting company.
Yeah.
There are a few workshops that you usually host.
Yeah.
5 different ones.
Yeah.
I have them here. There's one that I would want you to talk about more. How to let go after being let go, which you mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And the leadership style isn't a one-size-fits. And the other one is leadership style isn't a one-size-fits-all. Do you know yours?
Yeah.
How many leadership styles are there in the world, and what mistakes do you see people making when it comes to defining their own leadership style?
Yeah.
How did you come up with this idea?
Well, it's not a new idea, that's for sure. There's I forget how many, but there's 17 different leadership styles. And, there's everything from autocratic and kind of the leadership styles of the military and first responders and uniform sectors, right? Which I'm very experienced with because I've worked with them for over 17 years, 20 now. And there's emerging leadership styles. And, one of them is servant leader, right? Servant leader, showing up for your people and empowering them to do what they need to do to be successful. And there are a lot of different leadership styles. And here's the thing. People are trying to emulate a leadership style that they have received, potentially, had a leader that modeled this kind of behavior. Oh, that's how a leader behaves, then I'm going to behave that way. That doesn't necessarily fit with that person's authentic, self. So it's really important that people are able to know who they are and where they feel comfortable and what's going to serve them and how they serve. Ideally, when people do some investigative work on their values, their purpose, because when we understand our values, we understand our why. And if we don't understand our why, then that leads a whole bunch of wishy-washy, you can go this way or that way, and you don't really have a clear vision of who you are, right? Mission, vision, clarity. So if we don't understand our values and our purpose and our why, then we aren't necessarily able to show up as the leader that fits with who we are. And we try and, it's like wearing somebody else's clothes, right? No, that doesn't really fit. I'll wear it. I'm covered, but it doesn't feel good. So it's really important that people are able to do some internal work and figure out, what kind of leader do I want to be? What fits with who I am? And
what's your favorite leadership style?
I would probably call myself a servant leader after understanding more about that. It's about modeling good behavior, right? It's about showing up as the kind of leader I would want to be. It's recognizing people for who they are, recognizing their story, recognizing their strengths, empowering them in whatever way works for them. It's understanding, again, showing up with curiosity and communication and deep listening as to what somebody needs in order to succeed. And a servant leader does that, right? It's about understanding the people and understanding what they need to succeed. and how can I help them get there? I've had some really good modeled behavior of good leaders, and I've had some modeled behavior of very poor leaders. And you just quickly, as you get to be my age, you kind of figure out who you are and who you want to be and how you want to show up.
Yeah. There are many people who, in their careers, they want to get promoted, but we know as business owners that leadership skills is something that not everybody has in the company. They could be the best employees, but never become able to lead other people within their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And many times they don't even know. They're not even aware of that.
Yeah.
What are the basic traits that an aspiring leader should have, and how can you help them develop those traits or skills in order to become the greatest leaders that they can be?
Honestly, for me, taking a coach approach to everything. There's formal leaders, there's informal leaders, right? There's people that are in a leadership position and that's the title they carry. And then there's people that act like a leader no matter what role they have, no matter where they are in an organization, because they are helping others feel seen, heard, understood, because they're strategic or they're able to see what's not happening but should be happening, right? I think a leader is able to take a view of an organization and its processes and systems and see what's working and what's not, and able to be a disruptor when you need to be a disruptor to make things better.
And also to take ownership and responsibility.
Absolutely. And that comes down back to braving, right? It's about accountability. The so-called leaders that I've had that didn't really show up as leaders were ones that they thought they already knew it all, right? They thought they already had everything they needed. They had all the knowledge they needed. They made decisions based on their own biases, their own experiences, without utilizing the team around them that they've hired with these amazing skills and attributes that they're not even taking into consideration what these people have to bring to the table, right? So I think a leader shows up with humility and is able to help people show up as their best self, which in turn leads to an organization thriving, right? A true leader is someone that's able to see the people before the profits, because they know that if you tend to the people, the profits will come to an extent, right?
Yeah.
You need the right processes and everything else, but if you're not taking care of your people as a leader, then you're not going to have an organization that thrives, my opinion.
I also heard a few days ago, this is something I'm trying to implement in my style, and it's very hard. I find it very hard. It's, for example, when I am in a meeting, to ask everybody first. Let them talk first.
Simon Sinek.
If I tell what I'm thinking first,
Yeah,
it will dictate what they're going to say, what they're not going to say.
totally.
But it's hard.
Yeah, it is. I love Simon Sinek's video on that. Just be the last to speak. It's huge. Let's face it, when you're the leader, people, look to you as the leader and they want to validate what you say. If you say whatever you're thinking, they're going to agree. That's another characteristic, right? And there's some great ways to show up and help your people feel comfortable and safe and share their opinions. One is be the last to speak. The other is, don't sit at the head of the table. Sit in the middle. Hey, here's an idea. Don't try and run the meeting yourself. Delegate somebody else to do it and see what happens. And just share that experience, right? And you get people showing up in ways that might surprise you. There's a few tips.
You want to run our next meeting? When we have David, Isa, and the other David here in Alexandra, Aidan can run the meeting.
Here's the funny thing with my workshops. We all know death by PowerPoint, right? It's like all these words on a screen.
Actually, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think Jeff Bezos just announced that he prohibited now.
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah, PowerPoint is no longer allowed. Yeah, because it's killing all the presentations.
And it's because people aren't using it in creative ways. if we can, anything's going to be bad if it's not used in a creative, engaging way, right? And I, for years at my previous jobs, had a template of PowerPoint slides that we had to use. That's what they look like, and this is what it was. Now I'm self-employed. I get to do whatever I want. So I'm inspired by memes. I love memes, right? Because memes can take, complex, deep conversations, put them into one little engaging picture that just makes sense to me. And so, for example, on a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and do you react rather than respond? And what about, are you mindful or are you mindful? They're just fun little memes, and that's what I use in my PowerPoint. So all my slides are basically memes, and that's my speaking point. And where do I find this information? On my social media, all this inspiring stuff from Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, Brené Brown, and others, that I, take this meme and I put it into my PowerPoint and I speak to it. And one of them, there's a few of them actually, and they're point form ones. They're a bit longer, but it's, how do you create psychological safe spaces at work? And, how do you help people feel safe to be able to communicate and, do whatever? And one of them is, there was a bunch of them, and it's like, don't sit at the head of the table, and, delegate somebody else to do this. And there's a whole bunch of tips, useful tips that people walk away from my workshops going, you know what, that nugget was worth attending right here.
Right.
It's so much fun. Yeah.
How does it feel for you to be facilitating those workshops?
It's a happy place. It's my jam.
Isn't it hard sometimes? Don't you feel heavier absorbing all their problems? No. The opposite?
Yeah.
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 Like it. Bring it on.
I love it. And, that's an interesting question too. Whether it's coaching one-on-one or working with a larger group that are facing challenges. I learned something years ago. I was put in charge of all these women, different women in a group, different groups, and they were all brought together, and I was the director of programs and operations. And a lot of these people didn't like each other, and it wasn't a very functional team. So I'm like, you know what? I took us to a retreat. It was an assertive communication skills workshop for women. And this was my way to try and get them to see each other and work together and get out of the campus and, see each other for the humans that they are. And the one thing I took away from that, which was really powerful, is this quit taking it personally, right? Mm-hmm. And the quit taking it personally, what really stuck with me, the facilitator brought out a Q-tip, Q-tip that we clean our ears or whatever with.
We should not do.
Which we shouldn't, yes, but that's what they're, anyway. Yeah. So she said, take a Q-tip and put it on the corner of your computer, or put it by your phone, or put it where you're going to see it every day. And the Q-tip is a reminder to quit taking it personally. And as women, we tend to do that quite a bit, right? But it worked miracles. And honest to goodness, I don't take anything personally. Anybody can tell me any piece of information, and I'm not going to take it personally. You can not like me. You can tell me that this, I didn't like listening to you on the podcast. I didn't like this and I didn't like that. And I really don't care, because I don't take it personally, because it's not about me, right? Yeah. I'm comfortable with who I am. I am confident in who I am. And if you don't want to come along for the ride, then fine, you don't need to. But
where that's extremely useful when you're driving.
Totally. Absolutely.
Somebody honks, somebody cuts you over.
Right?
It's never with me. It's
when someone's mad at you, when you have bad service or you're treated poorly by somebody, it really says more about them than you. Quit taking it personally. If we didn't take things as personally, we would have less road rage. If we didn't take things personally, we would have less conflicts on social media. If we didn't take things personally, we would have less conflicts in regular life. But we tend to take everything personally, and that doesn't serve us. Doesn't serve me anyway.
What are the good habits that you have developed that you also teach other people?
Well, honestly, it's about showing up with curiosity. It's about valuing what I bring to the table and valuing myself, holding myself capable of what I want to do, and helping my clients hold themselves capable. And honestly, it's all about the braving acronym from Brené Brown, right? First is boundaries. What are your boundaries? Do you respect them? Do you hold true to them? Do you respect other people's boundaries? Reliability, right? Reliability. Are you doing what you say you're going to do, not just once or twice, but all the time, consistently? Reliability builds trust, right? And braving is the anatomy of trust, right? Accountability. Are you willing to recognize what you've done, what it's meant, and make amends when needed, right? The vault. The vault is how you build trust by not sharing stories that aren't yours to share. So if somebody tells you something, you don't tell other people. And having a vault is also kind of a combat to gossiping, right? Because if you have a vault, then you're not sharing somebody else's stories with someone else, right? Unless they tell you you can. So that's important. It's also about integrity, and integrity is about authenticity. And are you showing up and living into your values all the time, even when circumstances and what's going on around you tries to get you to go against your values, right? Showing up as yourself, integrity. N is non-judgment. Just showing up with non-judgment, right? When we're listening to people, hearing their story and not judging and recognizing whatever they have experienced, that's what they've experienced. And it's not our place to say whether it's right or wrong or to label it. That's up to them, right? And finishing off with generosity. And that means just showing up with treating everybody with the best of intention, knowing that they are showing up with the best how they can, right? They're showing up with what they know as best they can. We're all human, and we don't know what we don't know. And when we show up with generosity, we give people room to grow and to learn. And honestly, when it comes to coaching and my workshops and my business and who I am now, I am just living into who I am, who I have grown into. And if I can help other people through avoiding what some of the, pitfalls that I've come across or whatever, because I'm willing to share my experience and be vulnerable in sharing my experience, because there is no failure. There is just first attempt in learning, right? Then I feel like it's a legacy that I want. How can I leave the world a better place than I found it? And how can I leave people in a better place than they came into it with?
That's right. Shelley, this is one of the first episodes in 2024. What would you like to say to someone who, regardless of where they are, what their background is, whether they are Canadian or not Canadian, in Canada or not in Canada, entrepreneurs or not, unemployed or employed.
Yeah.
But people who are not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They have dreams or they had dreams, and somehow they are not getting through the obstacles and the hardships in life, and they're not seeing that goal getting closer and closer as it should be. What would you like to say to?
Well, first I want to acknowledge that, life is hard and it doesn't always turn out as we thought. And whether what's happening to us, them, whoever, is of their own making or with their own control or not, to show up with grace for ourselves, right? A lot of times when I'm dealing with folks that are experiencing challenges and they don't have good self-talk, for example, or they're not talking to themselves in a positive way that supports them and gives them the inspiration to move forward, it's like, would you talk to your best friend that way, right? If you're not talking to yourself the way you would to your best friend, why is that? You deserve better. So to show up with grace for what has not gone right, but to try and hang on to hope, right? That things are going to get better. I truly believe that the universe loves us and wants us to succeed. We have to, though, believe in ourselves and believe that we're worthy of that success. We have to, if we can, get clarity about what our intentions are. What do we really want? And how can we manifest that? And how can we bring it to be? And really, it's about recognizing that, life is hard, but there is hope. And tomorrow's a new day. And if you can wake up and try and face it as a new day and be clear about what you want and pursue it at all costs and recognize that you are worthy of whatever you want, then that instills hope. And that gives people the framework to create a new year and new intentions. And I don't believe in setting New Year's resolutions. I believe in setting intentions and goals and how can we serve ourselves better.
Great. And how can we find you?
You can find Seashell Consulting, International Coach Coalition. You can find me on LinkedIn as well under Shelley Langille. You can find Shell Seas under Instagram under Shell Seas 2023.
And the website is
Seashell, SEESHELL consulting.com and the International Coach Coalition.
Right. All these links, all of them are listed here in the description.
Excellent.
Of this episode.
Thank you.
Which you might be listening to on Spotify or on Apple podcasts. And remember, if you're watching this on YouTube and you found this valuable and you would like someone else to watch it as well, remember to share it and to like it. And also, if you want to be a part of this community, it would be really nice if you could also subscribe to our channel. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Elton, you're amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You're a coach yourself. You know that, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode.